Welcome back, everyone, to another edition of the Weekly Narrative live stream. My name is Jeremy, same host as last week. Thanks for coming in. Grab a seat, plenty of spots here, and we got some awesome things to talk about today. Actually, I'm pretty pumped to talk about what we got today. Before we get started, I want to make sure and remind everybody to go down to the description and subscribe to the live stream channel. There's another channel. It's going to have the live streams on it starting next year, as long as I meet all the requirements to live stream. We'll be moving everything to that channel. Okay, I don't want to hear myself. What's going on, guys? I see you in chat. Don't be shy. So as everyone's coming in and getting their seats, let's just go over a summary of what we're going to be talking about today. So the title of this stream is called Narrative Over Everything. And the reason that's titled as such is because we had a pretty big story happen this week, I think. There was a 7-year-old girl who tried to get across the southern border, and she had been dehydrated and malnourished for several days on her way here. And you guys may have seen the story explode everywhere. Absolutely everywhere. Exploded on Twitter. Every news network was talking about it. And then it just kind of disappeared. I don't remember hearing or seeing one thing about it in the last couple of days. Why? Because the narrative wasn't supported by the facts. So we used this little girl to push the narrative, who ended up dying, and then abandoned her like a used up rag doll as soon as we were done getting our use out of her. So we're going to talk about that and another interesting story related to maintaining the narratives. And then we're going to talk about the second half, which is an update to the Patreon, YouTube censorship, live banning stuff. Patreon finally came out with a response just a couple hours ago, actually. And we're going to talk about how YouTube has banned over 58 million videos in the last 3 months in the name of hate speech. Okay, we're trying to protect against hate speech. Remember, that is the goal. What's up, Miles? Julian Von Abel. I don't know who that is, but feel free to drop a link in chat. Maybe I'll check it out later. What's up, Young Barkley? And everybody else in chat, come on in, grab a seat. Let's jump right into it. So, you guys may have heard about this story. 7-year-old girl from Guatemala, I believe it was. Yeah, tried to cross the border in El Paso. So the timeline kind of looks like this. She's wandering around the desert for several days with her father, and they come across the border in El Paso. They get taken into custody by the Border Patrol. And 8 hours after getting taken into custody by the Border Patrol, she starts experiencing seizures. And then they, in their best effort to save her, they fly her via helicopter to a hospital and then treat her. But she later passes away. Now, the damage had already been done. But the story that everyone was being told on Twitter was that the Border Patrol, American law enforcement, committed a gross act of human rights violation, okay? And that, you know, she was locked in a cage room. I saw a locked in cage. I saw locked in a cold room, whatever that means. I saw, you know, she was being transported by them and basically ignored. They didn't even care about her health. All these different, various wide-ranging stories about how Border Patrol essentially abused and neglected this girl. And we had no information. We had no details. So I thought it was interesting that somehow these people knew all of this information that I didn't know. And I'm trying to read the articles from looking for this information, because that's what I do. I hear a story. I see everyone instantly is tweeting about this, and I want to know more. So I click on the article. I try to read as much as I can, and I'm not picking up all the stuff that they're talking about. So I don't know how they knew all this stuff that I didn't. Well, the answer to that is they didn't know. They didn't know. What they did have that I didn't have was a strong emotional attachment to the narrative that the border wall is bad and that Donald Trump is bad. Orange man bad, right? Hashtag orange man bad. Because that's the NPC, standard NPC response. Orange man bad. Any story that can be twisted into orange man bad is going to be twisted into orange man bad. And this should go down in the history books as the quintessential fake news orange man bad story, because we've seen this happen before. It happens almost on a weekly basis, but this, I mean, it's got all the elements, right? We've got immigration, which is the hot button issue right now. A young child dying. How could you get much more emotionally anchoring than that, right? Talks of human rights violations, talks of genocide, compassion, dignity, all these emotions wrapped up into this, And the stories like these are the ones where I actually get interested in trying to not necessarily discuss, but let's say trying to, well, I'll be honest, I'm trying to roast people on Twitter. And if you follow my Twitter, which is the only form of social media that I have left, and I barely even use that, you'll see that I kind of got into it with quite a few people. There were some long Twitter chains, and I don't do the whole calling people stupid or anything like that. I go for the long game where I kind of make you look like an idiot over 2 or 3 responses, kind of back and forth. So I got into it with like 3 or 4 people, and I was responding to people who were posting on guys like Sean King, who gives us the essential elemental breakdown of everything that I'm talking about. So if you were paying attention to the news during this time, you saw a version of this response that I'm about to show you from Sean King. It has all the elements. Everyone was tweeting some version of this, and the principles, we'll go over that actually after I show you the tweet. Let's just jump right into the tweet. I want to show you what he said. And the reason I'm using Sean King is because he's just your stereotypical social justice warrior, okay? He's an NPC who was, he's got a programming error, so he thinks he's black. He's actually white, but he pretends to be black to try and get that minority privilege. But on all other issues, he's lockstep in line with exactly the right script. This is exactly what you should say in this instance, in this kind of occasion, when you have the social justice mindset. So here we go. I will never forgive or forget that a 7-year-old girl died of thirst, shock, and exhaustion in the custody of American law enforcement. Okay, so we've identified the antagonist in this story, and that is American law enforcement. It is a gross human rights violation, a form of genocide. Okay, so there's the emotional triggers. We've pointed the gun with this first sentence by saying, you're supposed to be angry at who? Who am I supposed to be angry at? Oh, American law enforcement. Okay. And what is the magnitude of my anger? How angry am I supposed to be? Oh, gross human rights violations and genocide. Oh, like super angry. Oh my God, I'm so mad. And then the basic compassion and dignity she deserved has been removed by this government. Oh, I can make it bigger. So, okay, the government is the enemy. The government, American law enforcement. He continues on. And this is kind of like one of their trendy things that the social justice warriors do anytime someone has died that they deem to be an unjust death. Her name is Jacqueline, right? His name was whatever, or her name is this. She was a 7-year-old girl from rural Guatemala. She died in thirst and shock in American died of thirst and shock in American custody. That part is true. She died of thirst and shock in American custody. True. This is a sin. We were talking a little bit about sins last week. Now we're starting to get a bigger picture of the social justice sinning. And this is another one. It's a crime and a sin. Shame on Trump and his bigoted, cold-hearted government. Okay, so are you starting to see the narratives kind of come out here? The enemy is the government. Enemy is Trump. That's the starting point. You read the headline that says 7-year-old girl dies in CBP custody. Before you even read the headline, you're going in with that foundation that I hate Trump and I hate the government. And this is how everyone who responded to this in this manner does it. So the narrative is already in place. The bias is already there. So that twist that they put on that twist is what creates all these other realities that aren't even in this universe. She was locked in a cage. She was locked in a cold box. She was ignored by CBP. They neglected her. All these other stories that never happened come as a result of their imagination based off of that preconceived narrative in their head that they hate Trump and the government. So everything that happens with this story, regardless of facts, logic, whatever's presented to them, they're going to put that twist on it. And then he goes on to talk about how this isn't America's promise, and we're supposed to be asking for the poor and those yearning to be free, and et cetera, et cetera. It builds refuge. So I went into it knowing exactly what was out there. That she died in custody, and that I knew a timeline, and this was the clue. This is like this story is kind of like Scooby-Doo kind of thing, where you have to discover the mystery. If you put together the puzzle pieces, here was the puzzle piece in the news story that nobody else saw. That's really easy to find if you actually read the article. I think the original article that I read came from Washington Post, and it said no real detailed information, but it said they messed up too. I don't think Washington Post realized this because they're trying to go for the anti-Trump narrative too, but they put in the article that she was in custody in the Border Patrol for 8 hours. During that time, the father revealed to Border Patrol that she had no food or water for several days. So you have these overlapping timelines. You have this 8 hours right there, and then you have these days like that, kind of, So that was the only real clue to the reality that happened. So I went into it on Twitter with some people saying, justice for Jacqueline. And I said, yeah, I chimed in on that. I said, justice for Jacqueline. You should throw her father in prison for neglect and reckless endangerment. Right? I mean, we want justice. I want justice for Jacqueline too. Her father made a terrible decision that endangered her life. I want justice as well. So justice for Jacqueline. I was sharing the hashtag around, and then people started getting into it. Oh, you're an idiot. Her father was innocent. The people who destroyed all the water bottles on the Border Patrol, the evil ones. And essentially, I got some lady to admit that she admitted in her twisted reality of this story, because she was so anchored in that narrative. I got her to admit that she thinks that the Americans who provided free emergency healthcare, who flew this girl via helicopter, I've never been in a helicopter for medical care, they provided that to her, like top level medical care for free. They had tried to do their best to save her. Those people are the murderers. And the guy who dragged her through the desert and starved her and didn't feed her and put her in that risky situation, he was innocent. That is her reality. That's what her reality looks like. That's what Sean King's reality looks like. That's what everyone who is looking at this story in that lens, that's what their reality looks like. The people who tried to give her medical care and save her life at all expense, they're the murderers, and the guy who dragged her through the desert, innocent, totally innocent. In the name of the narrative over all, I will call the murderer innocent, and I'll call the saviors murderers if it fits my narrative. So kind of now, if you're looking into the blame game, if you want to play the blame game with this story, you know, oh, whose fault is it that she died and this and that? Holy, somebody just donated a fat tribute that's cropped for some reason. Let's see who that was. Fat $20 tribute. Hold on, I'm logging in. I gotta see who that was. I saw Merry Christmas on there. I like that. It's already looking good. The Gooch is back. Awesome. Sorry I haven't been around in a while. Hope you have a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Thanks, man. I really, dude, the Gooch is back. Glad to have you back, buddy. It's been a while. Oh, I didn't see it in, that's what it was. It was a super chat that went through Streamlabs. Okay. Man, thanks. I appreciate that, dude. That's great. Thanks for your support. Back to my point. If you want to get into the blame game, which is another path you could take on this, you know, whose fault is it really? You have to look at incentives, okay? So this guy had an incentive to face that kind of risk, to drag your child through the desert, face the coyotes, the animal coyotes and the actual like gang coyotes, the elements. To face all those risks, it had to be a pretty good reward at the end of there. Now, there's one party in America, one group of people in America who is trying to encourage people to come here via that method, trying to encourage people to take that risk, and by saying, we want open borders, we want to help you when you get here, we want to provide systems that will help you thrive. There's a certain group of people who are encouraging, despite the legality of it, they're encouraging people to come here. And then there's another group of people who are disincentivizing that journey by saying, we want to put up a wall, we want to make this harder to do, and we want people to come in the right way so that you're not dragging people across the desert. So using a system of incentives, you can figure out where to assign the blame pretty quickly with that one, I think. And the irony that I saw in this, and this is one of my tweets. This is the power of emotion, the power of the narrative overall. So the left, the Sean Kings and all these other people who were crying for action against Trump. We need immediate action against Trump. Because of what's going on the border, the 7-year-old girl died. This is genocide. Those people push for the incentivization of dangerous illegal journeys to the border, and simultaneously, at the same time, they blame those people who wish to remove the incentives for making that dangerous illegal journey to the border when someone dies as a result of the journey. How does that make any sense at all? There's no, they're immune to irony. They're immune to common sense. I don't know. I just don't understand that one at all. So I think the blame on that one is very easily placed. And as soon as it was found out, the truth. You guys want to see the truth now? So this is up all that firestorm of Trump is Trump this, Trump that. We need to, the CBP is committing genocide. Well, turns out Turns out there's actually value in waiting for facts. But we all know the ability to delay gratification is not the strong suit of the average person who finds themselves deeply embedded in the left, especially when it's that really emotionally triggering gratification. I'm fighting for the immigrants, and Trump is evil. Jake Tapper, of all people, broke the story, I guess you could say. Tweeted the story, which gives me some faith. I think Jake Tapper has been one of the guys who has been more human with CNN. He tweeted, Guatemalan consul Picandi something or other tells CNN's that he met extensively with the father of 7-year-old Jacqueline Friday night in El Paso. Paniagua says the father of Jacqueline has no complaints about how Border Patrol agents treated him and his daughter. Somebody just got roasted on Twitter. And by somebody, I mean 10,000 people. Number 2, the consul says the father told him that agents did everything they possibly could to help the girl on the bus. This was that period of transit that I was talking about when they were transporting her. The father, stop, I don't want to open a link. The father, per the consul, confirmed the DHS timeline that Jacqueline did not show any signs of distress until about 5 a.m. when they were placed on the bus to ride from the border checkpoint to the Border Patrol station 95 miles away. Well, what do you know? What do you know about that? Props to Jake Tapper, by the way. I feel like sometimes he actually does come out with some truth. He's not fully... he hasn't fully sold his soul to the devil. He's got a little bit of journalist left in him. So, what happened to all those tweet battles and whatnot that I got into on Twitter? Everyone deleted their tweets. Yep, everyone deleted everything because they looked like idiots. And I pointed out to one of them that, you know, it's not sad. The sad part isn't that you were wrong. The sad part is that you'll probably never realize in your brain how and why you were being controlled so strongly to the point to where you were pushing this lie without knowing any facts. Because that's really all it is. It's the narrative. The narrative got them. The roots, the tendrils, the dark, slimy tendrils of the narrative got them wrapped up pretty hard. And to give you an example of some of the baloney that they were tweeting, this is Bernie Sanders' former press secretary was making stuff up like this. Her and her dad were seeking asylum in the U.S. She died alone in the Hilera, these inhumane facilities, commonly known as Hileras or ice boxes, is what the Border Patrol uses to hold migrants, including children, for days. Hashtag justice for Jacqueline. And then Hillary Clinton. There are no words to capture the horror of 7-year-old girl dying of dehydration in U.S. custody. What's happening at our borders is a humanitarian crisis. And they all deleted their tweets. This is one from, she deleted that tweet. So yeah, they don't care though. They don't care. They don't actually care about the fact that this girl died. They don't care about the girl. They don't care about the dad. They care about using them to further their own narrative, which is why you probably won't even see corrections on any of these news stories. If you went and looked at all the people who posted those, the individuals themselves, they absolutely would not post something on Twitter saying, oh, I'm sorry, I was wrong. Our Border Patrol, they did a great job. They did their best. These are men and women who are sacrificing their safety to serve America, and unfortunately they couldn't help this. No, are you kidding me? They would never say anything like that. Because again, it goes against the narrative. I hate America. I hate the Border Patrol. Everything like that, you know. But I'm just telling you guys stuff that you already know. I just trying to drive it home to make it unbelievably obvious and apparent as possible. So the next time this happens and, you know, you see this outrage, just sit back and wait for one or two facts to come out, and then everyone's going to look like an idiot. I wish. No, that's not vodka. That's just water. That would be a lot. That would be a lot of vodka. I'm not that Russian. So, I want to talk about the Patreon stuff. There was an update, a pretty significant update. You guys may have been following this story. I talked about it last week. Sargon of Akkad was banned from Patreon, and Patreon has been losing thousands of patrons, I guess you could say. I don't think any of my patrons have left, but I'm considering deleting my Patreon anyway, just out of principle. In the same vein of the hate speech Patreon removal, we got news yesterday that YouTube has removed 58 million videos featuring hateful or inappropriate content. Now, the first question I have before we even get into the article, and the first question that you should have too, is what the hell is hateful content? What is inappropriate content? I know I have a rough guess of what this inappropriate content is because, you know, when you post a video on YouTube, you have to accept that it doesn't have any like nudity, copyrighted material, extreme vulgarity, stuff like that. But when I opened this article, the first thing I did, I'm scrolling through, I'm trying to find a definition. I want a definition of hate speech. What is hateful content? And I don't know who. Oh, abc.net. I think this is Australian. Yeah, .net.au. So I don't know what their political leaning is here. I don't know if they would actually include a definition of hate speech or not. But essentially, YouTube has been using algorithms to delete content. So they have a definition of hate speech somewhere. They have it in such a concrete manner that it is in an algorithm, so they can determine somehow whether a video is hateful. YouTube removed 58 million videos that posted hateful or inappropriate content in 3 months. A spokeswoman for the company said a new algorithm will work to stamp out problematic content. All right, problematic is another one of those BS social justice buzzwords. So to me, unless I'm given a definition, I can only assume that all this means is that they're deleting content that they don't like. But they said those spreading the material are likely to stay ahead of the tech company. I don't know what that means, but I'll tell you one thing. Algorithms, you don't even have to be a cybersecurity expert to know this. Algorithms can be gamed, okay? And there's ways around those. And you can see that already in place on YouTube when you have people who they replace words with letters with numbers. Like for E, they put a 3 when they have the word rape in their video, their YouTube headline or title, because the algorithm sees that. It says, oh, this video's about rape. That's going to get down regulated. So there's ways around it, but those are all going to be eventually taken care of. So, you know, we're kind of fighting an uphill battle as far as that goes. It's not a feasible long-term strategy to fight the algorithm. That's the point I'm making. So this article is kind of essentially saying, in a soft way, YouTube recognizes there's a problem, and it's starting to admit it. But the whole point of YouTube was being able to upload a video without being a professional. So any, you know, random Joe could upload a video. It doesn't have to be well edited. Maybe there's somebody yelling a swear word in the background, whatever. Social media platforms are more and more having to realize how hard it is to control the content on their channels. So why? Why are they trying to control the content? YouTube said the videos removed mainly had inappropriate adult content or spam, but did not offer much insight into how it's managing the large amount of hateful or conspiratorial videos. Okay, so I don't know this website, but the usage of the word conspiratorial and problematic kind of gives me a good hint as to what kind of people are running this site. So conspiratorial, that's another interesting one. Why is it a problem to share conspiracy videos? Isn't a conspiracy theory just somebody kind of like thinking out loud? Isn't that all that is? Conspiracy theories aren't inherently dangerous. A new algorithm will work to stamp out inappropriate content. So, sorry guys, but I didn't get any of my videos deleted, but I've read stories. Now, there was a Reddit thread that linked to this video, and man, the irony is delicious. The same people who were crying in the past few months about, oh, Alex Jones, conspiracy theorist, I'm glad he got banned. Take him off of iTunes. Gavin McInnes, they were cheering. They were doing those cheerleading formations. They were jumping on each other's shoulders and doing backflips because Gavin McInnes got banned from YouTube. People they don't like. When people they don't like get banned, they're cheering, but they don't have the foresight to be able to know that this is the result. This is essentially what's going to happen. Is YouTube is eventually going to go for everyone. Now, me personally, I actually tend not to think that YouTube is as politically nefarious as everyone else thinks, because I think the dollar, the almighty dollar, is superior to everything. Now, YouTube, what they're trying to do with the YouTube platform is go to kind of being this like Netflix alternative where you have these series and professionally made content. So they're slowly weeding out everyone who's making the garbage. And like I used to make videos about, when I was a lot younger, videos about how to make dry ice bombs and stuff like that. There's none of that on here anymore. You can't have any of that fun stuff. So they're trying to make it more of a professional platform, and they have every right to make it whatever kind of platform they want, as long as they understand that people are going to look for another platform when they get banned for their inappropriate content. Kenneth Kilcrease in the chat says, it's defined as anything that isn't advertiser friendly and is enforced selectively. Yes, exactly. That's the point I'm trying to make, is they're trying to make the platform sanitized. Okay, they're squirting hand sanitizer all over everything because they don't want anything that can lose them the almighty dollar, those marketing dollars. If I'm trying to sell a product, I make fantastic widget over here, and it's a viral hit, and I'm selling it to soccer moms or whatever, and an advertisement for my product comes up on somebody's video talking about white supremacy and patriarchy and the red pill and all this other stuff. It's like, I don't want to advertise on that platform anymore. So YouTube has to accommodate the people who are going to make them the money by sanitizing the entire platform. I think it's more of that than YouTube hates conservatives. They hate Republicans and they hate libertarians. They love social justice. Because if you look at if you look into who was getting banned in this 58 million video ban wave, it's random. It's like, essentially it's random. There were videos of guys who were showing you how to forge metal, like in a home blacksmith. Videos of people driving around in ATVs, like random stuff for no reason at all. Some people had their entire series deleted. So it's not, it does appear to be targeted, and there may be a little bit, you have to admit, You have to be able to admit to yourself that there may be a little bit of a silo effect, where or an echo chamber type effect, wherein, yeah, it does seem like there's a lot of conservative or Republican stuff being deleted, but that's because, number one, conservatives and Republicans are dominating the YouTube space. They dominate viral videos and internet media in general. So you're going to hear more about that, and you're more connected with those people. You're more plugged into what they say. So it's going to seem like it, but I'm trying to extend an olive branch to, objectivity here by saying, don't go so hard on the whole anti-conservative narrative. I think the almighty dollar is the one that you can blame here, which is, again, ironic because social justice warriors hate capitalism, but YouTube, they're cheering for YouTube banning Gavin McInnes and all these people in the name of money and capitalism. They'll never understand the irony. Young Barkley says it will not let me use the US flag emoji in your chat. Really? Well, let me try that. Where is the American flag here? Are you on a phone? I don't even see an American flag in the emoji list. I hate saying that word emoji. It just makes me feel weak. I don't see it. I don't see any flags, so. Oh, hey, Jennifer, what's going on? Let's see. Stop being problematic. Yeah, I'll be honest. I'm surprised a lot of my videos are monetized, and I'm still they're still monetized. I don't even my first video that has like 600,000 views now, still monetized, still kicking. So, maybe I haven't experienced that one really negative encounter with YouTube that's going to make me forever resentful and regretful towards them. Patreon came out with a statement earlier today. Breaking news, people. That's why you come here, because you get the latest and the greatest. Hate speech on Patreon. Continuing along our discussion of the clenching jaws of hate speech. I think every time you see the word hate speech, the term hate speech, they should have quotations around it, because it doesn't mean anything. And we'll see here. This is a good opportunity. I haven't actually even read this full thing. So now we get to experience together. Maybe they're going to have a definition of hate speech in here. So let's hope for that. Some creators and patrons have questions regarding our removal of Sargon of Akkad for hate speech, who was, by the way, making like $12,000 a month on this platform. We take a strong stance against hate speech and want to make sure everyone has full context regarding the removal. Before getting into specifics, I'd like to warn you that there is some inflammatory language. Thank you for that trigger warning. In an interview on another creator's YouTube channel, okay, so they're admitting it wasn't even his YouTube channel, and they're admitting that it wasn't even their platform, the two things that we kind of set forth as the premise in the last video that I talked about. Sargon said, I just can't be bothered with the people who choose to treat me like this. It's really annoying. You're acting like a bunch of N-words, just so you know. You act like white N-words. Exactly how you describe black people acting is the impression I get dealing with the alt-right. I'm just not in the mood to deal with this kind of disrespect. Look, you carry on, but don't expect me to then have a debate with one of your I don't want to even say that word because I might get my channel banned. That's terrible. Like, why would I bother? Maybe you're just acting like an N-word. Mate, have you considered that? Do you think white people act like this? White people are meant to be polite and respectful to one another, and you guys can't even act like white people. That's really amazing to me. Okay. Inflammatory? Sure. But he said the N-word 3 times. So that's like cardinal sin number 3. Okay? We're compiling a list. I'm actually going to make a list of the deadly sins of social justice. This is one of them. This is like thou shalt not kill. This thou shalt not say the N-word. Doesn't even matter the context. Doesn't matter the fact that black comedians use it against black people, and even they admit that it doesn't have anything to do with skin color. It's more about behavior. Anyway, I'm probably going to get banned just for saying that. Patreon continues to say, some people worry that we are reviewing content not posted on Patreon. Yeah, you think? How far does your reach extend? Are you looking at my text messages too? As a funding platform, we don't host much content, but we help fund creations across the internet. As a result, we review creations posted on other platforms that are funded through Patreon. Sargon is well known for his collaborations with other creators, and so we apply our community guidelines to those collaborations, including this interview. Wow. Wait a second. We help fund creations across the internet. We review creations posted on other platforms that are funded through Patreon. What does that mean? YouTube is funded through Patreon? I don't understand, but they've defined their scope right here. So nobody can be surprised anymore when Patreon bans you for, you posted on some gaming forum that you don't like the developer's direction and they found that offensive. They can ban your Patreon for that if they find it. Their scope is across the internet. That is the scope right there, okay? In our community guidelines, we state that we don't allow hate speech. Part of how we define hate speech... Oh, here we go. There we go. Part of how we define hate speech in those policies is hate speech includes serious attacks or even negative generalizations of people based on their race and sexual orientation. We also say, when reviewing an account for a potential hate speech violation, we consider some of the following questions. Is the creator using racial slurs or negative depictions of a protected class? In this case, Sargon used racial slurs to insult others and specifically linked those slurs with negative generalizations of behavior. In contrast to how people of other races act. He also used a slur related to sexual orientation to generally insult others. Oh, okay. Taken in whole, with all of the context, this violates our community guidelines. We understand some people don't believe in the concept of hate speech and don't agree with Patreon removing creators on the grounds of violating our community guidelines for using hate speech. We have a different view. Thank you for being honest, Patreon, because to be honest, that's all we could really expect. That's the most we could expect from you, is to be honest about your agenda. Patreon does not and will not condone hate speech in any of its forms. We stand by our policies against hate speech. How does this hate speech have anything to do with you, Patreon? It wasn't your platform. It wasn't his video. We believe it's essential for Patreon to have strong policies against hate speech, to build a safe community in the name of safety. There it is. In the name of safety, guys, a safe community. We need to build a safe space. And that means you can't say fag because it's a negative depiction of a sexual orientation. Never mind the fact that straight white males are constantly generalized negatively. Wait a second, what was their definition of hate speech? Oh, hate speech is negative generalizations of sexual orientation and race. Great. So every single time I see somebody saying or berating somebody for being a straight white male, or saying that, I have white privilege, that's a generalization, by the way. Saying that someone has white privilege, you're generalizing that person based on his race. That is the exact definition of Patreon's hate speech. But let's be honest, are we ever going to see it applied that way? No. There are pages for Antifa Patreon pages on Patreon who state in their description, in the objective, we want to put 44 caliber bullets in the heads of capitalists and like the ruling class or something like that. Totally fine. No, not hate speech, not inciting violence. It's not anything like that. No, totally cool. Just give this guy all your money. Don't worry about it. So essentially what they've done is they've confirmed all of our previously held ideas about what they would say, which is that they have a double standard. Their definition of hate speech means nothing. They apply it when they want to, which is against someone like Sargon of Akkad, and then they turn a blind eye in all of the other instances where that could be applied. So, is anybody surprised by that? I'm not surprised. Yes, they need protection from words. That's exactly right, Jennifer Glenn. Because Patreon. Now, it's funny. They said they're gonna make a safe community. We believe it's essential for Patreon to have these policies because we want to build a safe community. But then if you scroll up, they said the scope of their reach is across the internet. So last week I said it, we kind of assumed that they would be looking at your content everywhere across the entire internet. And that was maybe a bit of a stretch because they didn't justify themselves yet. But now we know, 100% confirmed, that they're going to be monitoring all of your behavior across the entire internet. Doesn't matter what platform. Doesn't matter if you're on somebody else's channel, somebody else's platform, whatever. It doesn't matter. You are under the umbrella, the control, the Big Brother Patreon will, and this is your income. This is, for some people, this is like their main source of income. I'm sure it was for Sargon of Akkad. Imagine your income is dependent on your behavior outside of work. I mean, it is right now. If I posted something or somebody posts something on their Twitter along those lines and your employer found it, you'd probably still get fired. So we're now living in a world where it's totally fine to ruin someone's livelihood over the behavior that has nothing to do with your employer, nothing to do with the platform that you're funded by, nothing to do with the platform that you use for your hobby or whatever it is. It doesn't matter. Anything you do. It's interesting, and because it kind of seems like it's at a certain point they realized that they wouldn't be able to control you this way through law, because they'd never be able to pass a law that says you can't say fag. Okay, you can't say fag in public. You can't pass a law that's going to say that. But they want to make it prohibited for you to say that, and they want you to suffer consequences for saying that. So how do they do it? Well, they simply put their little tendrils, their tentacles into the platforms that dictate your entire social life. So everything on the internet, your Twitter, your Facebook, anything, you have to follow the new digital laws. Because if you don't, then your digital existence will be gone. And that's what we talked about. Was that last week or the week before? The digital gulag. They have their own set of laws now, and he violated them because he said the wrong word. Do you think, here's a question for everyone in chat, do you think that Sargon hates gay people, or that he hates black people in his heart? Do you think his intent was to destroy and disparage gays or black people? That's question number one. Do you think he hates gay people? Question number one. Question number two. Does intent matter at all? Do you think intent matters to Patreon? Does it matter to YouTube? Question number three. Is this ideological, or is this, again, the pursuit of the almighty dollar? So many questions. Now I'm still in that realm of I could see Patreon doing this for the almighty dollar, but when you look at the repercussions that they faced so far from everyone deleting their accounts and stopping their Patreon donations to people like Jordan Peterson, who was one of like I think the top 20 patrons. Sam Harris, who was number 13, he was getting like 30,000 a month or something. I forgot how many patrons he had, like 12,000 patrons. I saw the number earlier today. I forgot off the top of my head, but he had a huge Patreon following, thousands and thousands of people. He just deleted his account. So I applaud him for taking at least what he thinks is a principled stand against Patreon, because when you by continuing to use the platform, in my view, continuing to use this platform is admitting or acknowledging that you agree with their actions and their definition of hate speech. I'm playing by your rules, Patreon. I'm okay. I'm allowing you, Patreon, to have the ability to dictate whether I receive the money or whether they can give me money. What if someone wants to donate money and they say something hateful? Or I don't think we're there yet, but maybe eventually people who are donating will get banned too. Stalking Horse says in chat, Antifa would break their wrists if they fired a 44. It's funny because it's probably true. They're basically promoting self-censorship. Yeah, that's a great point, Jennifer. So now, because of this, now Patreon's come out and they've set the rules. The rules are now in place. Everyone is well aware of what the rules are now, at least kind of a general definition of the rules. So now everyone's got to be. I gotta be quiet. I gotta be quiet when I talk about this. I can't say the wrong word, or I know I can't talk about gay people or black people. I wouldn't talk about those people. I wouldn't talk about them at all. If that was, my bag. But any news on the Jordan JP Patreon? I don't know what that is, but yeah, Jordan Peterson, who is one of the larger guys on Patreon, sounds like he's going to be moving off of Patreon. I don't know. I didn't read his article about what his plans were, but I'm kind of glad he's on board. Not because I'm particularly that much aligned with his views, but because he's one of the bigger people, and I think Patreon should suffer the consequences of their decisions. Miles says, I still think it's bad that people are calling for racists to be fired. For example, from an EMT position or a racist stream for charity funding. Yeah, well, we live in this like bounty culture now. It's like everyone is bounty hunters. And when you find a racist and you get the bounty on their heads, regardless of where they live, what they do for a living, you don't get a bag of coins. You don't have to throw their ear on a table and say like, oh, I caught this guy, and then they throw a bag of coins on the table or something. You don't get a bag of coins, but you do get a fat satchel of virtue. Oh God, it feels good. That emotional gratification that you feel when you turn in the evil racist that works at McDonald's because he didn't make your chocolate milkshake dark enough, or the EMT that you're talking about, or any of these other stupid examples of racism. Yeah, Kevin Hart is another good example, and we're starting to see more examples. They're gonna turn on the left. The cannon is gonna turn. It's same with YouTube. Okay, you come for the Gavin McInnes, but you're gonna be taking out everybody. So, a couple streams ago, this is kind of related. We talked about how in the upcoming election, by the standards of Patreon's definition of hate speech, generalizing a race of people in a negative manner, we talked about how the left cannot and will not run a straight white well, I made the prediction anyway, that, and it's not like a Nostradamus level prediction where you have to be a genius to know this, but they're not going to run any kind of white males for candidates. And that's, you know, like your Joe Bidens and stuff like that. They're not, because they're beyond that now. They're far enough into that ideology that they can openly say, we don't want a white person as a president because you're white. We want someone that's black because of their skin color. And they don't say it like that, but they kind of do, actually. So I'm curious, do you guys think this would fall under hate speech for Patreon? This is Amy Siskind. I don't know. I think she's a journalist or something. Blue check mark on Twitter, which means she's verified and essentially, well, she's not endorsed by Twitter. So, but you know, they don't have any problem with what she says. So she says, I will not support white male candidates in the Democratic primary unless you slept through the midterms. Women are our most successful candidate. Biggest Dem vote getters in history: Obama 08, Hillary 2016. White male is not where our party is at and is our least safe option in 2020. So you might be thinking, all right, it's just a one-off, some random person from Twitter, you know, she's clearly drinking that social justice Kool-Aid. That doesn't mean that the left is like going full bore against white candidates for the presidential election. Oh, wait a minute. That's right, everybody. It's Joy Reid. Let's see what Joy Reid has to say here. This is from Drone Tech Politics. I'm stealing his video because I didn't want to search for the original video of her saying what she's about to say.
To change parties.
We don't need white people leading the Democratic Party right now.
It's looking more and more like the identity politics of the left is going to begin to eat itself at this point.
Which was the point that I was just making. Okay, let's skip to the guy talking because I don't want to hear this guy. You can watch the video if you want. I just wanted to get to what they said.
Important constituency for Democrats in 2020, black women. And I've heard plenty of black women say, if there's not a black woman on this ticket, I'm not voting. I'm not excited. I'm not enthusiastic. If the Democratic Party wants to run seriously in 2020, they can't relegate black women to second class. They can't relegate black women to a consolation prize.
Yeah, and by the way, E.J. Dionne, they can't run two white guys. I mean, the idea that you have Joe Biden talking to Beto O'Rourke and saying maybe they could be a ticket, I personally find it hard to understand how you get the requisite turnout among voters of color if it's a two white male ticket. I mean, women are going to be outraged if there's not a woman on the ticket, and voters of color are going to say, well, then why are we participating?
I thought that
because if the skin color is not the same as me, then what could I possibly gain from that? That was mainstream television, ladies and gentlemen, MSNBC, saying you can't run two white males because they just don't fill enough intersectional categories. You don't hit the female, so you're not going to get any females voting for you because it doesn't matter what your policies are. All that matters is what you are, not what you think, not what you want to do with the economy or the government or foreign policy. Do you have a vagina or do you have brown skin? That's all I'm looking for. How stupid do these people think that these voters are? I mean, I know there are some people who think like that, like, I'm not going to vote if I'm black, I'm only going to vote for someone with black skin. But I think MSNBC is doing this is crazy insulting to women and black people, is to say that and to mean it and to know that you can't get away with it on mainstream TV, that you're only going to vote for somebody because they have the same skin color or they're the same gender. Isn't that insanely insulting? Like, hey, I know you're such a retard that you're only going to vote for someone with the same skin color because you probably can't even read the policies that person wants to enact, and I'm assuming that, you know, you don't care about anything else except skin color. Like, that's pretty absurd to me, but that's how far they've gone. Okay, so this isn't like a fringe movement anymore. This isn't going to be like 2016, where you have Joe Biden and all those two other. There were two front runners that made it. In Bernie Sanders, you know, he's gone. Bernie Sanders is gone. There's no way they're going to try and let Bernie Sanders run. I mean, they kind of like his policies, but he's a straight white male, so he's going to lose all the women vote and all the black vote because he's not a woman or black. Yeah, I guess they're hoping to pass Beto off as Hispanic. See, that's the interesting thing. Beto, or Beta, I'm just going to call him Beta because saying Beto just sounds stupid. Beto O'Rourke from Texas, he's an exception. Why? Why does he get an exception as a white male with the Democratic Party? Because he's trendy, he's young and hip. He's in with the cool kids crowd, right? That's his pass through the intersectional filters. He's not black, he's not female, but he's young and he's hip, he's jive, he's with the cool kids. He rides a skateboard out on the stage during his campaign speeches, you know. He's cool. Going for that young crowd. That's what we're going for, that one. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. Now I'm just curious, like, that kind of sounds like discrimination to me. I don't know if, and there's plenty of posts that I've shown you guys where people are telling white people to abort their babies if they're white, all this kind of stuff. Clearly hate speech, but, you know, do they get to play by the same rules? No, of course not. We all know. I should just change the name of this stream to New Rules or Double Standard or something like that, because it seems like that's all we talk about. End the stream on a funny high note, or could be depressing, however you want to look at it. For our gender dynamics portion of the show, this is one that I just found right before the stream, and I just said, you know what, I have to talk about this. I have to. New York Times, okay, big article, big publication. Article's entitled, "These men are waiting to share some feelings with you." And this is the picture. These are all guys, by the way. These are all men. This guy is laying down on the laps of 6 other guys who are all touching him. They have their hands on his thighs, on his chest and neck, under his head, under his back. And the subtitle to the picture is that this won't hurt a bit. A member of the Mankind Project is invited to explore his emotions with the help of others at a weekly meeting in Midtown Manhattan. Oh, wow, New York. What a surprise. This is happening in New York. Imagine my shock. In meetings and retreats, chastened menfolk, what the hell is a menfolk, are working stuff out. On a Monday night, in a sparsely decorated room in Midtown Manhattan, a group of approximately 20 men, including an endocrinologist, a sportscaster, and a policeman, and an employee of the United Nations, they're so diverse, were bearing their souls. Quote, "I've been digging deep with my girlfriend, and we're having those talks about moving forward in our relationship, and I'm having nights where I can't sleep," said Andrew, an opera singer who has performed at Carnegie Hall. Ooh, I performed at Carnegie Hall, but I have to cry to other guys and sit on their laps every night. I'm angry that my health is deteriorating. I'm not ready to be an old man, said Jeff. I'm checking in with some anger. I didn't get accepted to the institute, and I smashed 2 candles, which I know isn't very yogic, said another man who asked to remain anonymous. Don't blame me there, buddy. Ranging in age from 30 to 70, the men were gathered as a part of the Mankind Project, a 33-year-old nonprofit with 24 chapters in the United States and 11 regions abroad. It focuses on men's emotional well-being, drawing on elements like Carl Jung's theories of the psyche, nonviolent communication, breathwork, Native American customs, and good old-fashioned male bonding. The goal, this is the important part, according to many affiliated with the Mankind Project, is to break down patriarchal and hierarchical ideas of masculinity. Wow. I never would have guessed that that was the goal. Thank you, New York Times, for yet another mind-opening piece of journalism. 33 years? So this organization's been around for 33 years? And their goal is to break down patriarchy? I feel like they probably didn't start out that way. Just guessing. And the place to start is where another man, Socrates, did centuries ago, with the mandate of know thyself. Have it cultivate awareness around your emotions so that they aren't projected onto others in harmful and destructive ways. You have to quell that toxic masculinity and, anger and aggression and all those things that make you a man. This is accomplished through a series of facilitated exercises, some of which involve props aimed at bringing feelings to the surface and to hold a mirror to oneself. Could you imagine going into a meeting like this? I can't. I'm trying right now. I'm trying to imagine going into that and taking it seriously. I can't. I have a good imagination too, and I can't. Men, who are less likely than women to seek out individual therapy, are increasingly looking for outlets in this fraught cultural moment of political acrimony, widespread economic instability, and major societal reckoning over their behavior. Oh, wait, so you're saying that they're like, are they guilty? Are white men guilty of being too manly and white? So that's what's going on in New York. I don't think anyone's surprised by that, but I'm praying that this is just a small, tiny, not serious group of people, and that this isn't becoming a norm. But let's be honest. We all know that there is a large push for men to become more feminine and in touch with their feelings, because we're trying to redefine what masculinity is now. And these people who are going to these groups, they're stuck in that transition between the old masculinity. They probably wouldn't even fit in with the old masculinity, which is why they need a group and they need like emotional release and that kind of stuff. Yeah, this is perfect. They say it right here. They define it in the article. What they don't want is the stoic male who doesn't express or share his emotions. I see that as being extremely detrimental. The evolution from boyhood to manhood isn't something that naturally happens. Not in today's society. Jordan Derby linked the video in chat. I'll check that out. Where are all the feminists crying about how the group is male only? That's a great point, actually. I'm surprised that nobody is complaining about that. And then I want to leave you with this picture here. This is the future of masculinity in America. And the root of this problem, talking about masculinity and redefining masculinity and all that, it's fun, whatever, we can have a laugh and all that, but you need to know that the narrative is that the families are bad. Okay? So if you redefine what it means to be a man, you're destroying someone's idea of, or someone's ability to be in a functional polar relationship. So you're eliminating the smallest unit of a community, which is the family. And that's not the narrative, that's the agenda. The agenda is to destroy families. And this is just the subset of that. And why do they want to destroy families? So that you're reliant on the government and you're reliant on the system to prop you up. And if everyone is all crying for the help of others, I was listening to Russell Brand talk to Candace Owens. I think that podcast was just released yesterday. And the whole theme is that Russell is complaining that there's not enough compassion and that we don't care. Society doesn't care about people anymore. And it's pretty blatantly obvious that Russell wasn't raised in a family with, or at least with a large extended family, because if he was, he would realize that that is the role of the family. The role of the family is compassion and taking care of you when you need it. The relatives, community, your neighbors, your church, that small community around you as the individual. When that's not there, you do what Russell Brand does. And you say the same thing. You say, hey, I want help. But instead of looking to your community and your family, you look to the government. You say, help me, give me money or whatever. Programs for this, programs for that. So that's the agenda. This is just a small subset, offshoot of that agenda, a side effect, if you will, that masculinity is no longer even a real thing. Men activities are being killed off, yes. And traditionally men spaces, even like video game spaces like Twitch, are being invaded by women, taken over by women. There's not a lot of space for guys to just do guy stuff. Just for guys anymore. No more guns or cars or things like that. Yeah, exactly. No, that's right. We was kangs, says Loaded Brush. That's, I guess, at some point we are. Oh, no, he said men need to spend more time together to cultivate masculinity and conspire to reinstitute the patriarchal meritocratic monarchy. Man, this guy, I like that. We're going to end it on that. I couldn't have said it better myself. Let's conspire to reinstitute the patriarchal meritocratic monarchy. It really, to be honest, I'm not doing it for me. I'm doing it for the good of society, because that's the only way society is going to survive. So I hope you guys enjoyed this week's live stream. We'll see you back here next week for the next edition of the Weekly Narrative. Be sure, before you go to the description, click on the link to subscribe to the other live stream channel, because I won't be live streaming on this channel next year. So thanks again for watching, guys. Appreciate it. We'll see you next week.